Welcome to Exploring the Paranormal. Hosted by Heather Leigh, PhD, Exploring the Paranormal offers a new, fresh look into paranormal research. Join Heather as she discusses some of the many haunted locations worldwide, discusses why these locations are haunted, hear from paranormal researchers about their personal experiences at these locations. Additionally, Heather takes a journey into the science behind the paranormal, discussing topics such as thermodynamics and the Heisenberg principle and how they both affect paranormal activity. Now, your host of Exploring the Paranormal, Dr. Heather Leigh.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me this morning. I hope you guys are all staying warm and having a fabulous week so far. Real quick, welcome Leigh to the show, and I wanted to let you know that I did look up Eldora, and it is on my list of places, and as soon as I get to it to do some research and visit it, I will definitely let you guys know and share some of my experiences at that location. It looks like it's a fun and interesting place to go, and it's not too far from where I live, so definitely we'll be getting there. So thank you for that recommendation, Leigh. Super excited to get out there. And again, welcome to the show. So excited to be here. Today is going to be a fun and exciting show. I have an amazing guest, Tony Spera. You guys probably know him as being one of the co-directors of NESPR, the New England Society for Psychic Research. And he is also the curator of the Warren's Occult Museum. He is the son-in-law of Ed and Lorraine Warren, married to their daughter, Judy. He is going to be on to talk about his experiences, a little bit about Ed and Lorraine Warren. And then he's also going to talk about, we're probably going to touch on his show a little bit, because I have lots of questions about his show after watching it. And then also, of course, we're going to dive into the details of their event that they're having later this year. So make sure you stay tuned and stick around. He will be joining us probably about 10:30-ish, 9:30 Central. So I'm definitely super excited that he agreed to be on the show today. So with that being said, lots and lots of updates on my end. As you guys all know, the sponsor of our show, I'm super excited. And always, I like to start off my show by thanking Omni Interactions. It's the company where you can work from home and get your life back. This is a 100% remote company looking for US-based customer service representatives to support Omni's Fortune 500 clients. For more information, as always, you can visit my website at heatherleighphd.com and go to the Exploring the Paranormal page. Or you can go to getgig.life/paranormal and make sure you tell them that Dr. Heather Leigh sent you. But we'll talk more about them later in the show before we go to our first break to give you guys more information about them. But they are a great company. My husband's been working for them for several years. And definitely super excited that they've agreed to be our show sponsor. But with that being said, I want to move on. As I'd mentioned, so many things are happening on my end. Definitely can't release all the, divulge all the information. But what I can share is that I do have 4 new books that are in the works. I've talked to my publisher at History Press, and I sent him, he's like, send me all the ideas that you have. I sent him 4 ideas, and he took all 4. So you guys can look forward to later this year and early next year, Haunted Florida Ghost Towns, Haunted Florida Theme Parks, Haunted Florida Roadside Attractions, and Haunted Florida Civil War Sites. Those will all be coming. I believe the Ghost Town one will be the first one that we're doing. That one I had been working on for a long time anyway and knew they wanted it, but then when I sent him the other ones, he was like super excited. And then as always, you can find Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns, Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley, available from Arcadia Publishing or at any local bookstore. I know if you guys live in the Vegas Valley area, Walgreens, Target, several locations out there, Clark County Museum, Mob Museum, and I heard a rumor, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think Zach's Museum has a few copies in there. Someone told me they saw it. I didn't know he had books in his store, but They didn't send a picture, so I really can't confirm or deny that one. I'm actually reached out to my publisher to find out if they did order or not. So that would be kind of interesting if they are in his museum, because his chapter was probably the biggest chapter in the book. So, and then of course, Haunted Florida Lighthouses has been sent off to the publisher and should be out later this fall. I will make sure that I share all those details with you guys as the different release dates come out. Or as always, you can reach out to me at Dr. Heather Leigh on Facebook or heatherleighphd.com, and I can get you a autographed copy, because I do still have several copies on hand as well. Or stay tuned. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of events across the country, and I'll be having books with me where I can sign them right there for you. For those of you who follow me also on Ghost Education 101 every other Wednesday night, next week on March 29th, we are going to be putting on a presentation on how to host a paranormal event. And I'm going to be joined by Steve Dills and Chris from his team, Transcend Paranormal. We're going to be discussing different ways to host an event, everything you need to do so, as well as unexpected things, and also kind of focus on how these events should be done to help the historic sites. So basically, when Steve does his events, he sets them up, and all the money goes to help the historic site for preservation processes. So definitely a fun and interesting presentation you guys want to make sure you come to and watch. It'll be online. Just make sure you go to Ghost Education 101, or just continue following me. You'll see it there as well. Of course, Real Haunts 3 and Real Haunts Ghost Towns is available on Prime Video or Tubi. And also the newest news outside of my books, I'm super excited. TMCC out in Reno reached out to me, and I'm going to be hosting again. I did last year, a class in the fall, but this fall they want me to kind of switch gears, and instead of focusing on haunted locations, on September 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific, I will be hosting a 3-hour course on the ABCs of paranormal research. And then on October 9th from 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific, I will be hosting a class on Ghost Hunting 101. So mark your calendar, stay tuned. Registration, I believe, opens up in June or July, and I'll make sure you guys get all that information. But those are going to be fun, interesting courses, and I'm actually looking forward to teaching those. Cannot wait for that to happen. And sorry, I was just checking through the comments, and thank you, Todd. I saw your private chat. And the one thing I wanted to touch is last week on Ghost Education 101, we did a panel discussion, which was very interesting because a lot of us had different views, but we all kind of believed the same thing. Our panel discussion was on the concept of para-unity, but it more or less kind of it drifted off into the paradrama that we're dealing with right now. And the one thing I want to say is I do my best to stay away from it, but of course I sometimes get sucked into it, like many of us do. And basically, I wish I could remember who posted it yesterday, but it was one of those things where it's like someone had said that, if you hear someone talking negative about someone else, just either don't listen, or, don't fuel the fire by sharing and passing it along. Do everything you can. We were talking about this earlier, and we're never going to be able to advance this field if we don't move past the drama, move past the egos, and work together. Because, it's one of those things where we're so focused on one-upping each other that we've lost track of why we're in this field, why we do it. And of course, we have an influx of paranormal tourist enthusiasts, which of course is, understandable because it is an interesting field, but we really do need to focus on our real purpose for being here. We want to help clients. We want to get answers. We want to move the field forward. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it's moving backwards. That's just my personal opinion. I try to support everyone I can unless they give me a reason not to support them. But I also don't just blindly follow and blindly support and believe everything I see. So just, I guess it goes back to what I always say, do your research. If you see someone post a comment about something or post a video or even just, anything, do your research, understand both sides of the story. And you might be surprised because there's several things that I've seen in the past where once I did my research, it was, even though one side was louder than the other, it turned out that the other side was right. So you kind of want to just do your research. And lately, the one thing I've been seeing, and I've seen this a lot, is it's not so much, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Of course, it's the people egging on their fans, I guess you would say, or providing fuel to the fire. But it seems to be more or less the fans that are carrying on the drama. So just like I said, make sure you do your research, understand both sides of the story, and, let's do everything we can to nip it in the bud. Oh, hey, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm just taking a peek at the comments. Good morning. Thank you. I do appreciate everyone being here. And sorry for babbling on a little bit, but I expected some of my other stuff to take a little bit longer to talk about. So I kind of just wanted to touch base on that and basically just do your best to avoid the drama. I know I try. I know it's difficult. And focus on you. You do you. And one person said to me that the reason why they see a lot of people fighting for each other and putting other people down is because they want to be the next best show. I always tell people, do you, get out there, have fun. You'll be noticed. Producers are watching. They're, if you want to get on a TV show, don't push it. They're going to look for the personality. They're going to look for basically they're just going to come to you. Yeah, you could submit your proposals all you want, but, of course you run the risk of the proposal being taken and someone else producing the show. But they know who they want. They know what they're looking for. And in the future, eventually the producers are going to be sick and tired of all this drama, and they're going to stay away from those that are causing the drama. Exactly. Anne-Marie Young says, stop by, don't give it any energy. Fire will go out quickly. Yep. And Shay, what's meant to be will be. Exactly. And that's what people don't understand. I mean, when we were asked to be on Real Haunts, we weren't out there looking. We were just doing our thing. And the producer called to ask a few questions about ghost towns in Southern Nevada. And next thing we knew, we're in front of a camera. So if it happens, it happens. And, even when being the fact that we were on the show, it hasn't changed us. Yes, we promote it because we're proud of it. But, we just kind of, still do our thing. I'm still the same old person I was beforehand. And that's just how I've always been. And that's how I'm always going to be. Am I wrong for that? Some people might say I am. But I truly do believe that in order for us to make this field move forward, we really got to check our egos at the door. So, yeah, just do you and be yourself. Avoid drama is a good advice for all aspects in life except theater. Exactly. Drama in theater is a good thing. Yes, it is. Definitely. Gotta love some Shakespeare. So again, I'm done babbling on that one, but truly do appreciate everyone chiming in, giving me your opinions. And hopefully we can see this field move beyond all this drama. As with anything, there's ups and downs. And this might just be everyone jumping on the bandwagon of drama, and before we know it, it's over. God, I hope that's the case. I don't think it will be, but I really do hope that's the case. So anyway, anytime throughout the show today, make sure you guys ask any questions you have. As you know, I'm always more than happy to answer any questions you have about the paranormal. I know Tony he has years and years and years. I think he has more experience than I do in the paranormal field, actually working with, I call them the grandparents of the paranormal, only because, they were old enough to be my grandparents. And I truly looked up to them. Definitely one thing I need to ask him is, one thing I would love to do is get my hands on some of Ed and Lorraine Warren's tapes to kind of review their evidence, just to see if I can catch anything. Because you know how when you review your own evidence, you always miss something. I always miss something. My husband's always coming to me, hey, did you catch this? And I'm like, no. And I'm having to go back and re-listen to everything again. So yeah, I just think that would be fun and interesting. So feel free to ask any questions when he's here. As you guys know, even if you're watching the replay or listening to the replay of the podcast, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always more than happy to offer mentorship, guidance, answer questions. There's so much that we can do in this field, and we're not going to be able to do it unless we work together. And, we don't know everything. We're never going to know everything, but, we don't know everything about physics or chemistry. They're always discovering new things even space. They're always discovering new things every day. So don't be afraid to ask questions. If you ask a question of someone, else besides me, and they won't give you the answer, that just kind of shows that they might not be the right person to go to ask questions. And just keep moving on until you find someone who's willing to talk to you. I always chuckle because when I was researching Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns before I published it last year, I reached out to someone who had a book about the area. And I just had one single question. I just wanted to know about their personal experiences when they investigated a certain location. And I still crack up to this because I just can't believe how, I guess I can believe it with all the drama going on. But I was told to, instead of taking the time to answer my question, which would have taken 5-10 minutes maybe, I was told to go buy their book. And of course, I wasn't going to do that. So I just left that location out of my book. So it's just, if you are out there and doing well, if you have books, if you have, take the time. Because even if you share a simple personal experience about a location, it's not going to ruin the book. It's going to make people more interested. And if they want to learn more, they're either going to ask you more or they're going to buy a book. It's when you are closed off, don't want to talk to people. It's just like the athletes that refuse to sign, stuff for the little kids. Yeah, I know they get asked all the time questions, just like we get asked all the time questions. But we're never going to be able to help the next generation if we don't open up and share everything. It's basically what I'm trying to say. What's my scariest location or experience? Actually, the location wasn't so scary. It was the Florence Mine up in Goldfield. And this would be the example where I say go buy my book, but I'm not going to go do that. Sorry. I had to inject a little bit of humor here. It was the Florence Mine, and we were the first team that were invited in to investigate it. And we were actually filming a pilot for a TV series. And of course, COVID shut that down. The whole production company stopped producing for a while, so it kind of got shelved. But we crawled. If anyone knows me, I'm very, very claustrophobic, so I don't know how I managed to do this, but I had crawled back we went into a shaft, and it was collapsed in the back. So we were told we could only go so far in. And we got, hands and knees crawling in, and we got to a point where we all could stand up, and there was 3 of us, and there were 4 of us. And we were all standing up, and then the production crew was with us too, but they were kind of crouched on the edges. So that goes to and we were like all within a huddle. And it went back probably a little bit further, but you couldn't see the end, so it kind of went back and turned. And something told me that I needed to go back there a little further. And we had been warned because the mine owner's son was with us during this point. He's like, just be careful when you go back there because it is still collapsed. And so I crawled back there, started an EVP session. And moments after getting back there, all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was being crushed. I was hearing voices of men screaming. And it just literally felt like I was experiencing every moment of their last moments before they were crushed. Was crying. The team, of course, heard me back there, pulled me out, and I was perfectly fine. Once I was, less than 4 feet away from where I was, everything was fine. It was all quiet. I could breathe. Didn't feel emotional anymore. But in what was probably less than 5 minutes, it felt like hours to me. I thought it was the end, and that's what scared me, is it's just that feeling. But yeah, that was one of my scariest moments I've ever had when it came to that. And I was actually physically attacked in an investigation. And that when they flipped me and wiped out my feet from underneath me, I stood up and I started yelling at it like it was a 3-year-old, saying we don't do that to people. So yeah, I would say that I don't really want to say it was a psychic attack, but I was reliving the final moments, because then later on we did find out that they're still not 100% sure that they got all the bodies out of there. So there might still be some bodies buried back there that they weren't able to get to. And this would have been back in, I think that shaft collapsed in the 30s or 40s. And that's how long that they've been back there, if they are still back there. It's like asking someone how to spell something and they tell you where the dictionary is. Yes, exactly, Leigh. And that side you can, yeah, it was. And that was, I've had a lot of different experiences where I've heard voices, but that was the first time that it was ringing in my ears. It was loud. And I don't even know how to describe it. It was crazy. But then my digital voice recorder was running the whole time and it picked up nothing. So, I mean, and that location, that was weird because we have no video evidence, no audio evidence, but we have so many personal experiences that, you know, even while everything was running and nothing was captured at that location. So it kind of makes you wonder, you know, were they psychically communicating with us and not imprinting on any of our equipment? So it was just, it's really interesting. I definitely need to get back there. Yep, exactly. They probably wanted people to know that their bodies are still back there. And that's what we're thinking. But the mine owner, I don't know. I need to talk to him again. And actually, I've been talking to him. I think I talked to him just before Christmas. We still keep in contact, and we're actually trying to plan a event out there because that's going to be a great location for an event. But he's trying to keep it as he's not really operating it anymore. So, I mean, even though there's believed to still be gold and silver there, they're not in operation because he wants to preserve it and make it a kind of like a historical tourist attraction. His son, who I think he started when he was 10 or 12, giving tours of the mine. I went there talking to his son and his daughter. It's like, oh, what a cool place to grow up. You know, his son has no fear going into the mine. He, you know, goes down and has a lot of fun and explores, but he gives tours, and they're working on restoring everything back to its natural state. So that's the fun part about a location like that. And that's why, and John's a very great guy. He's very nice, very sweet. I know when I talk to a lot of people in Goldfield, he is the unofficial town historian because he does a lot of tours, information. And he's a walking encyclopedia of Goldfield. So he's definitely a great one. That would be a great idea. And actually, I know someone who's close by that I could bring with. I'll just have to see if I can get him to travel up to Vegas. Reverend Sean Whittington, love the Rev. He actually did my forward for my Las Vegas book. And if he can't, I do know a couple others that would be willing to probably do the drive. So that is a good idea. Definitely need to find some closure for the spirits that are trapped in there. So, and yeah. Oh, another fun thing that happened. I call it fun. It just goes to show that we enjoy these things. We were sleeping at the mine. The mine owner let us spend the night in his house, and we're crashed out. One other team member, myself, and then the mine owner's children wanted to camp out with us in the living room. And we're, camping out 3 a.m. Of course, why is it always 3 a.m.? The time of what's the devil's hour. And I woke up to someone screaming. I mean, it was loud and in my ear. I didn't start the fire. I jumped up. I was sleeping on one of the couches, looked around. Everyone else was sound asleep. If someone had been in the room screaming, they'd be stirring and nobody was moving. So then the next morning I was talking at breakfast with the owner, and he's like, oh yeah, Goldfield, of course, had 2 fires, but the mine actually had a fire. So the person who was probably blamed for the fire that didn't start it was probably reaching out to me. Maybe that was the whole intention of the spirits, bringing it back to its natural state. Yes. Oh, the witching hour. Yep, Leigh, thank you. 3 a.m. the witching hour, they say. Yeah. I for some reason, I wanted to say the thinning of the veil, but that's Halloween or All Hallows Eve. I have not had enough coffee today. I need to get definitely more coffee in. So hopefully soon, Tony Spera will be joining us, and looking forward to having him here. So make sure you guys have all your questions available. Tony's a great guy. I talked to him on the phone a couple weeks ago. we had a great conversation. He's very knowledgeable, and love hearing stories about his experiences with Ed and Lorraine Warren. He's not only knowledgeable about the history of the paranormal, but their former investigations, as well as if you go to their website, they have a whole bunch of case files that you can flip through with different evidence and reports. And I think you can go to tonyspera.com or NESPR.com, NESPR.com. And you can find everything there for more information about them. And also their Warren Seekers of the Supernatural Paracon. That's coming up in October, and that is going to be a fun event. Every year their event keeps changing. I've actually loved watching it evolve, and it is truly going to be a fun occasion. And looking forward to him joining us, and he should be joining any minute. So with that being said, winding down before we go to a quick commercial break, make sure you guys, again, like I said, ask any questions you have. Don't be afraid to make comments or ask questions. We're all here to help each other in the field. And it's never, even if you're just I don't want to really say fangirl or fanboy, but even if you're just curious about the paranormal, it doesn't hurt to learn. You may find out down the road that you want to do this more, and you just never know. So like I said, I've had people come up to me and be like, oh my God, I've been so afraid to ask you, Heather, but could you help me with X, Y, and Z? And it's like, well, why are you afraid to ask me? And, don't be afraid. The worst thing a person can say is no. And that just shows their character, depending on what you ask. So yeah, I'm always more than happy to reach out, happy to talk to people. The only thing is, I will warn you right now, is when I wake up in the morning, I usually have 100 plus emails, 100 plus text messages in, not text messages, but Facebook messages. So it might take me a while to get back to you. And if I don't get back to you right away, it's not because I'm ignoring you. So I always tell people, don't hesitate to reach out again and be like, hey, Heather, did you see my message? I know Todd's had to do that with me a couple of times because things get buried. And, it's that whole where you get the message and you reply in your head. So you think you replied to them, and you then you don't go back to it. Oh, no problem, Shay. I love sharing my stories. I have a ton of stories. And Courtney, thank you for the cup of coffee. I definitely need more. But yeah, so real quick, let me just check real quick the private chat. Oh, Tony is ready and backstage. So let me do one more final shout out to my sponsor, and then we'll take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, Tony will be with us. So real quick, before we go, when we return, I will be joined, as you guys know, by my guests for an open discussion about the paranormal. So get those questions ready and handy. But before we go, don't forget to check out my new show sponsor, Omni Interactions, where you can work from home full or part-time for hours that are convenient to your schedule. This is the best part about this company. Working for Omni allows you to create your own schedule in 30-minute or 1-hour blocks. Finally, definitely a company that allows you to get your life back, and perfect for the paranormal researcher who wants to spend time going to locations and not having to worry about a 9-to-5 job. So with that being said, make sure you check them out. And definitely Mom Brain. I get that all the time, Courtney. Again, we will be back in just a few moments with Tony Spera. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I am super excited about today's guest. I have Tony Spera. He is the co-director of NESPR, the New England Society for Psychic Research, and he is also the curator of the Warren's Occult Museum. I'm definitely looking forward to having him on here, so make sure you guys have your questions ready, and I want to welcome Tony to the show.
Heather.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm well, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. So glad you're able to make it today and chat.
Well, it's my honor to be here. I'm really glad I was able to come on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you again so much. So basically, I know a lot of people are interested, of course, with the Ed and Lorraine aspect of your life. But real quick, let's talk about you. Can you kind of let us know how you got interested in the paranormal in the first place?
Yeah. It was way back in 1979, actually, when I was working as a police officer in a small town in Connecticut. And I was sitting in an industrial park complex facing out towards the road. I was doing a report. And as I'm doing the report, I just happened to glance up from the report, and I see this brown station wagon, they call them station wagons in 79, drive by me with this beautiful woman inside. And she's smiling, and then she waves like this at me. So I looked. I said, "Who is she?" I said, "Why is she waving at me?" So being the inquisitive young police officer that I was, I put the car in drive and followed her. I followed her for about a quarter of a mile or half a mile or so. She pulled into the strip mall. And so I slowly pull into the strip mall. By the time I pulled up to where her car was, she was already inside this dress store. So I pull up right next to the dress store in the strip mall. And amazingly, she came to the door. And she looks at me. I waved at her from the cruiser. She waved back, but she gave me kind of a funny look. Not the same smile that I saw when she drove by. So I said to myself, okay, this is a dead end. So I'm in trouble now. She's going to go turn around, go in and call the chief of police. I'll be in handcuffs. So I'm pulling away, and I'm saying to myself, that was the wrong move. I shouldn't have pulled up to the door like that. So I'm a little worried, but not too bad. Then all of a sudden, over the police radio, another police officer calls me. He says, "Hey, meet me behind this building." So now I'm thinking, all right, he's going to meet me behind the building, escort me into the chief's office, where the chief is going to arrest me or something, or something bad's going to happen to me. So I pull up, and this guy, Al, the other police officer, is there. And he looks right at me and goes, "Hey, did a girl in a station wagon just drive by and wave to you?" Just like that. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah, why, Al? He goes, "Oh, she was looking for me." He goes, I know her pretty well. He goes, "Her name's Judy." He goes, "I'm not dating her or anything. I'm just a friend of hers." "Why, do you want to meet her?" he says. So I said, "Yeah, I want to meet her." That night, he lets me, he sets up the meeting with Judy and me at this place called, and it's not Popeye's Chicken. It was like some other kind of chicken place in Hartford. And about 11 o'clock after I got off duty, I met her there with him. He was there too. He said, "This is Judy, Tony. This is Judy, Judy. This is Tony." And he walked away. And I said, "Hi, how are you?" And so I talked to her. And I said, "Well, what's up?" She said, "Well, I got to go back to this beauty salon next door to my dress store and get my hair fixed by some guy she knew, like late at night." So I said, "Okay, can I follow you back? Can I go back with you?" She goes, "Yeah, follow me there." So I started to date her. I talked to her. I liked her, of course. And I started to date her. And I'd say about 2 weeks after dating her, one day she says to me, "You want to go see my parents lecture at UConn?" So I said, "UConn, University of Connecticut." "Yeah, what are they, college professors or what are they?" She goes, "No." She started laughing. She goes, "No, my parents aren't college professors. They're ghost hunters. They're Ed and Lorraine Warren." So I said, "You're kidding me." I heard the name. I wasn't real familiar, but I heard the name of the Warrens before. And she goes, "Yeah, they're going to be lecturing. You want to go?" I said, "Sure, I want to go." So we went into the green room at the Jorgensen Auditorium at University of Connecticut. And there was Ed and Lorraine sitting there, calm as a cucumber. And Lorraine's sitting there sipping on tea. And Ed's looking at his slides through the slide projector. And, "Hey, kid, how are you?" he says to me, first thing out of his mouth. Didn't even know who I was. "Hey, kid." He goes, "Hey, do you believe in ghosts?" I said, well, I don't know, Mr. Warren. I said, I don't know if I believe in ghosts or not, but I remember Casper the ghost. I was a wise guy. So he laughed. He goes, yeah, you're gonna find out tonight. So we went in the audience, Judy and I, and Lorraine was very nice. She said, hi, how are you, hon? And after I was introduced. So we watched the lecture. I was like super intrigued. Remember, I was 29 years old back then. I never saw anything like this that they were showing on the screen. They were showing demonic encounters. They were showing the Annabelle doll. They showed the Annabelle doll even back then. And Ed was talking about devils and demons during his lecture. And I was like, just like fascinated by what he was saying up there. After the program, I said to Judy, I said, man, that was wild. She goes, let's go back and talk to him in the green room. So we went back to the green room, and Ed says, first thing out of Ed's mouth is, hey, let's go grab a pizza somewhere. It was like about 11 at night. Luckily, there was one place in Storrs, Connecticut, which is a small town, that was open and had pizza. And we went there, and I picked Ed's brains. I liked him right away because he was just a down-to-earth person. And Lorraine was very demure, you know. And I said, Ed, tell me more about these things that I saw tonight. So he just went into all these stories. He just started talking about the paranormal. And after that, I said to Judy, I said, boy, that was really interesting. She goes, oh, yeah, they've been doing it for quite a while. And then she told me a little bit about their backstory. And then about maybe 3 weeks into our dating after that, she says, hey, do you want to go to my parents' house to have a turkey dinner? I said, of course I do. Let's go. So I'm going to turn food down. So I go, and first thing Ed says to me, we sit down, and we start to talk. And the first thing he says, he goes, well, now do you believe in ghosts, kid? I said, well, I'm intrigued, Ed. I really am. I'd like to know more about it. He said, after dinner, we're going down to the museum. And that's what we did. He brought me down to the museum after dinner, after we ate. And, you know, Ed's a wise guy. And we were in the middle of the museum, all the way down towards in the passageway. He's like, don't touch anything. These are all the opposite of blessed objects. These are the unblessed. These are the unholy objects. Don't touch anything. They're very dangerous. Okay, and I won't touch anything. I was like really scared. We're in the museum, and all of a sudden, Ed's like, I gotta go make a phone call. I'll be back. Where are you going, Ed? Because he's telling me how dangerous it is to be alone in there and everything. He's like, phone call. He starts laughing because I was scared. I said, you don't go anywhere, Ed. He goes, I'll be right back. He's kidding me, you know. He starts to walk out towards the hallway. And that was my first encounter with the supernatural, really, because before that I was into like astrology. I used to read astrology books. I used to read books on the afterlife a little bit, but nothing about ghosts and devils and demons. So that's how I got into it. That's how I started getting intrigued by it, because then I got to the point where I'm saying to Ed, hey, Ed, can I help you guys out at all? It was like about 1983. He says, hey, well, if you want to like carry my equipment to the lectures, I'll let you do that. So I said, okay. And I would run the projector. I would set up the PA system if it was a small room somewhere. And but what I did was I'd listen to all his lectures, and I'd listen to the Q&A. The Q&A at the end of his lectures were very educational, because people would ask these crazy, wild questions about the paranormal. Sometimes non-believers would say something to Ed, and Ed would explain things to them. So I started to learn more and more about the paranormal. And then maybe after a couple of years of helping him in his college lectures and his high school lectures and private lectures, he and Lorraine, I started to help them out on investigations. He goes, well, I think you know enough, kid, now to go on case with me. And that's how I got into it. And here I am today, still doing the same thing, you know?
Yeah, I would have loved to have met them. I kind of felt bummed that I didn't actively get in the community. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, but I was always behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I had, when I first started getting active in the community, a little bit more is when Lorraine had passed.
Yeah.
And I was so heartbroken because I viewed her as like a third grandmother, even though I'd never met her.
A lot of people say the same exact thing. You know, she would have loved you, because that's how she was. She'd have loved you. She'd have loved anybody that she encountered that was inquisitive, anybody that was sincere. She would love. Even the people who weren't that sincere, she would hear them out. And
Mm-hmm.
she was very, very compassionate to other people. That was the difference between Lorraine and most people. I'm saying people in general. When Lorraine would say, "How are you today, dear?" she really wanted to hear your answer. Where if somebody said, if I said, "How are you?" and the guy goes, "Oh, I had to go to the hospital yesterday," I'd be like, "Yeah, the weather's pretty good out." I'd like change the subject maybe. She'd be like, "Well," she wanted to hear the whole story about your life, what their problems are. She would sit there for hours. One time I was out to lunch with Judy and Lorraine about 12 noon on a Saturday. And Judy says to Lorraine, "Ma, you look a little tired." And Lorraine goes, "Oh yeah, I had a long night last night." "What do you mean, Lorraine? What do you mean, Ma? What do you mean you had a bad night, a long night?" "Oh, well, about 3 in the morning, the lady called. She had a bad problem." I said, "What do you mean? You answered the phone?" "She have an answering machine." "Oh, I know, but she really needed my help." I said, "Lorraine, how long did you talk to her?" "Oh, about an hour and a half." Out of a dead sleep, Lorraine would answer the phone. Now, me, I'd let it go to voice. Ed would let it go to voicemail. Lorraine, she'd pick up the phone no matter what time, because they were listed in the phone book, and she would discuss their problem. And she did that multiple times when we'd meet her on a Saturday or a Sunday. She's, "Oh, I had this terrible case last night." I go, "What do you mean, Lorraine?" "This woman has a terrible problem." Then she started to tell us. And then Judy would say, "Well, when did she call you?" And that's how we found out. It was like in the middle of the night. So Lorraine was the kind of person that, and also I got to say that she never charged any money for any help. Ed never charged. They would charge expenses if people had the money. In other words, if they had to go to Ohio or Rochester, New York, or somewhere kind of farther away, Ed would say, "Well, if they got money for gas or something for us, we'll take it." But they've never charged them. And if the people said, "We don't have any money," they'd go anyway. Lorraine was asked many, many times in my presence after a lecture by people, "Lorraine, can we go somewhere and can you give me a reading? I'll pay you for it." Lorraine would always say, I don't do that. I don't do things like that for money, because I have a God-given gift. I use it to help people. If there's something I need to tell you, I'm going to just tell you. I'm not going to do a reading on you and charge you money. That's the difference between a true psychic who wants to help people and the one just are in it for the money.
Yep.
A lot of people, I know money makes the world go around, but you shouldn't be at other people's expense.
Yeah, it sounds like that poor woman never got any sleep.
Hardly. She was a dynamo. And, when we'd go to England, a lot of times we'd go to England. First time I ever went to England with Ed and Lorraine was 1981, 82. Remember, Lorraine was like 25 years older than me. And I'd get so jet lagged and so tired when we arrived in England. Like the first few days, I was out of it. But Lorraine, no, Ed was out of it. But Lorraine, no. She'd be like, I remember one time we were sound asleep in this bed and breakfast. And I woke up at 2 a.m. and I was dead tired. And I said, "I hear noise in the other room, Jude." She goes, "Yeah, what is that?" And then in the adjoining room, and my mother must be asleep. I don't know, "What's that noise?" So we knock on the door. "Come on in." Lorraine was up, doing her suitcase over. She was at 2 in the morning. She's fixing her suitcase, perfectly fresh. She was I was like, I couldn't. I said, "I can't believe your mother." I said, "She's got that energy that no one else has." Ed used to call her an energy vampire. He said, "She must suck out energy from other people, Tone, because I'm so tired and she's all energetic." And he was right, because we'd have young kids on this trip. We'd go on a business/recreational trip to haunted locations in England. Ed and Lorraine would bring maybe 10 young people with them. It's a paid a vacation trip. He'd bring them to haunted locations. The people are all jet lagged. They're all "Oh, we want to rest." It's Ed and Lorraine are "No, we have to go find this other haunted location. Let's go." They could run circles around young people, including me. So that's how they were. Because they loved what they did so much. Ed loved paranormal so much. I used to go over his house in Lorraine's. I'd go over to his office, which was off the museum. I'd go to the house. I'd say, "Lorraine, where's Ed?" "Oh, he's down in his office." So I'd walk down in his office. Just on a random day, I'd just drop in. I'd walk down. He's reading a book on a paranormal. This is he's already into it for 40 years, but he's reading a book on it, learning more. And he goes, "Boy, this is an interesting book." that's how he was. Everything he did was paranormal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's. I'm trying to figure out the word for it, but yeah, they were definitely go-getters and definitely helped advance the field and get it noticed. So I don't think the field would be where it was if it wasn't for them.
No, they'd go on investigations almost on a daily basis, you know. Like every time I'd call up Lorraine, so we just got back from a house in whatever town. The lady was really tormented. They need help a lot. It wasn't like they'd go every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. They'd go almost every day. They'd have somebody call them up because they were in a phone book. And it said, I'm not going to make my number private. People want to know. He said that as long as I can do it, I'll be here to try to help other people. And I think that as the pioneers of the paranormal, they really catapulted a lot of people's careers. You know, like I was amazed that years ago, I was amazed that they never had a movie made, really a big movie. And then all of a sudden, after when Ed was sick and then he passed, they come out with The Conjuring in 2000. You know, the script was presented in 2009 or 10 to the movie industry, and 2012 it was filmed. Ed never got to see any of the movies, but Lorraine did. She got to see Conjuring 1, Conjuring 2, and so that in itself, the first time we saw The Conjuring, Lorraine and I, at a pre-screening at Warner Brothers, I said to Lorraine, I said, boy, can you imagine if Ed was alive and he could see Patrick Wilson playing himself? He'd be so like beaming. He'd be beaming with it. With like, that's me up there. That's, you know, it was, you know, I hate to use the word surreal because everybody uses it, but it was surreal to see Ed's character being portrayed, especially when I saw it for the first time, you know.
Yeah. And they couldn't have picked better actors either.
They're great actors. And they both came to the house. I remember it was 2012 that they called up Lorraine and said, we want to come to your house and talk to you, Lorraine, and just get a feel for, you know, what's going on with paranormal, and because we're going to play your parts. And I remember Judy and I went to the house that day. We were all excited because at the time, Patrick Wilson had a TV show out called A Gifted Man. And he was a gifted surgeon, and he ran for a season, and we really liked the show. And all of a sudden, we found out he was going to play Ed. So we're sitting in the dining room, and all of a sudden the phone rings. I pick it up. It's Vera Farmiga. She goes, "Oh, we're only about 10 minutes out." And it's like surreal, you know. They pull up in Patrick's pickup truck. They both get out holding Starbucks coffee. Here's the weird thing. And Judy's looking out the window. She starts like screaming, "It's really him. That's really him." So I go, "Yeah." So I go out and meet him with Lorraine. I went out there. I was nervous. And they were down to earth. They were just regular people, just like you and I. Well, the only difference is they're actors. And so Patrick was just a regular dude, and Vera too, very nice. And I took Patrick down to the museum. He talked to me about the museum and the artifacts. Vera said, "I'm going to stay upstairs and talk to Lorraine. I want to know all about her, get as much information as I can." And he did. And the funny part was, at the time, Judy in 2012 was working in Bank of America. And she goes into Bank of America and she's working. And one of the other tellers says, "Do you know somebody named like Vera something or other?" And Judy says, "Why? What do you mean?" He goes, some celebrity or something. She goes, a woman came in and said from Starbucks and said that some lady came in and paid for 2 like drinks, and she gave her a credit card. It was Vera Farmiga. It was in Newtown, Connecticut. They must have stopped off the highway. Vera and Patrick got those they were cold ice drinks or whatever, iced tea or coffee, and they came to the house. And it was weird that the next day somebody says to Judy about this famous celebrity being in town. But it was really crazy to watch, and I think they portrayed them very well, and especially the way Vera captured the genteelness of Lorraine, how gentle she was. And Patrick did a good job with Ed too, but Ed was a little bit more rough, gruff. But Ed also had a very, very sentimental and sympathetic and compassionate side to him. Just like Lorraine told me once, Ed's a very complicated man. I said, "What do you mean, Lorraine?" She goes, "He just is. He's very complicated. He could be like a rough, tough guy at one second, and the next second be crying." Great animal lovers, both. both from great animal lovers. That's why those chickens are in the Conjuring 1, where Lorraine's chasing, because when Vera came to the house, Lorraine had chickens in the house in cages because she said, it's a little cold outside. I got the chickens in cages. And Vera said, I have to have chickens in the movie. And so she went to the producers. She says, and because one of the producers, Rob Cowan, called me up one day and he said, Tone, can you just be careful what you say to the actors? I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, because he goes, Vera now wants to have chickens in the movie, and we got to whole thing to have chickens in near her house. So it was because they do listen to the input of the actors, you know. And so I go, don't worry about it. I won't say too much more because I think I might have said, yeah, that'd be cool to have chickens, Vera, in the movie because Lorraine has chickens, you know, so it'd be good. And Vera, right back to the producer, said, we gotta have chickens in the movie. So that's how. And they asked me about how they dressed, how they talked to each other, what kind of jewelry they wore. They really investigated and researched the Warrens a lot. So, and they watched a lot of clips. So.
Yeah, they're really good movies. I haven't seen, what was it, the third one yet?
Yeah, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, remember this, Heather, though, that, and everybody watching that, you know, Hollywood is known for dramatic license.
Oh, yeah.
So, in other words, an entertainment movie, when Warner Brothers' sole purpose is to make money. The byproduct is entertaining people, but they're not documentary makers. So when people say to me, was this part real? Was that part real? I always say to them, most of it's not real. In the Conjuring 1, about 50% was real. Conjuring 2, maybe 40% was real. Conjuring 3, maybe 5% was real. They take a modicum of truth and then they expand on it. And it's just like, that's why it says inspired by true events or based on a true story. It's never exactly the way things went down. Like when Patrick Wilson in Conjuring 1 says, you know, Lorraine loses a part of herself every time she goes on a case. One day she went into her room and she didn't come out for 8 days. That wasn't true. That was made up. But people say to me, what hurt Lorraine so badly that she didn't speak for 8 days? But there's always a modicum of truth in some of these things. And some of the things, it blows my mind that how the movies knew it or guessed it. Because Lorraine did not speak for 9 months one time. And it wasn't on a paranormal case. It was when she was younger, when her father died. Her father passed away in February of 1968. And Lorraine was so traumatized by it that for 9 months she didn't talk. She didn't speak a word. That's how it affected Lorraine. So the thing about going into a room and not coming out, not talking for 8 days, I don't even know where they got that. But there's certain things that they have in these movies that we never told them. And they wouldn't know looking online, but somehow they came up with reality about things that happen. Like there's in Annabelle Comes Home, there's a brief second where you see this box where Ed grabs a box with a crucifix on top. Inside the box is like holy water, I guess, and ritualistic prayers. That's a real box that Ed used. We never told Warner Brothers about that box. They never saw that box. It's not online anywhere. But that wooden box that Ed had made up years and years ago with a crucifix nailed to the top of the box, and inside Ed used to keep holy water, crucifixes, incense, and prayers for demonic entities. Somehow Warner Brothers, for a split second, had it in Annabelle Comes Home where he grabs that box. It's the exact looking box. So I don't know how they even knew some of these things.
Yeah, either way, it's still entertaining. And it gives paranormal investigators, even people who are curious about the paranormal, something to escape the drama of the paranormal and, you know, get lost in a movie for a few hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And also what Ed would have said, because I know Ed very well, I know how he thinks, what Ed would have said, even with the dramatic license, Ed would have said, you're damn right I want people to see that movie. And I would probably say to him, why, Ed? What do you mean? If it's not all exactly correct. And he'd say, I know what his answer would be, because I'm getting the word out there that the devil exists, that evil is real, not to dabble in occult practices or this can happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he used to say, because people would say to him, or not say to him, reporters or articles would say, oh, he's just in it for the money. He's just in it to be on television or write books. And I would say, you know what I would say to that? You're damn right I am, because that way I get the word out that evil is real,
Mm-hmm.
that evil exists. Ed didn't do it as a joke. Ed didn't think any of this was a farce. Ed lived in a haunted house from age 5 to age 12 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He was so traumatized by the things that happened in that house. He and his twin sister, Babe, both saw these things. Where this old hag would be in a closet, the door would creak open in his closet in his bedroom, and this hag-looking thing would look out at him. Footsteps would come up the stairs with a cane hitting the steps. Footsteps around their bed while nobody was home, because a lot of times no one would be home in the house. Back then it was different. I grew up different than kids today. He, when he was 8 years old, his father looked at him and said, "Ed, you're a man now. You can take care of yourself." 8 years old. Ed would be roaming the streets at 8 years old, walking around Bridgeport, which is not a great city in parts.
Mm-hmm.
So he would come home from school sometimes. And he told me, he was telling, I'd be so scared to go back in that house. I'd come home sometimes from school, like in the winter, and it'd be freezing out, and all the lights would be out in the house, so I knew nobody was home. So what I would do is I'd hide under the vegetable carts that these old Italian guys used to keep for the winter with tarps over them. And for the wintertime, I'd hide underneath the vegetable carts, and I'd keep looking up at the house until the light went on. Then I'd go in. I said, "Ed, you're kidding me." No, I was too frightened to go in alone. That's what he said to me. So he said to Lorraine, when I get out of the Navy, he joined the Navy on September 7th, 43, on his 17th birthday. He said, when I get out of the Navy, Lorraine, I'm going to find out if other people have had haunting phenomena like I've had. Lorraine looks at him. Remember, she's just turning, she wasn't even 17 yet. She looks at him, she said, "Ed, you must be reading the same books as everybody else. You're all reading the same books. There's no such thing as ghosts." She says that to Ed. Ed says, "Lorraine, you're saying that to me because you didn't live in a house like I did for all those years." Mm-hmm. He goes, "That's why he said, I know it's real. And I'm going to find out if other people had problems like me." And when he got out of the Navy and went to art school for 2 years in Haven, and he would draw these scenes, he'd say to Lorraine, "We're going to go investigate things." And what he would do is he'd read these articles in Fate magazine about this little magazine like the size of the old Reader's Digest, a little book. And they're all about weird phenomena, hauntings, Wolfman and the Tennessee Bell Witch and all these different kinds of things, and haunted houses, Henniker, New Hampshire house. And he says to Lorraine, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to drive up and find out." But Ed used a ploy, and people would make fun of it like online, but this is what Ed would do. He would get a sketch pad, because he was an artist, get a sketch pad and a pencil. They'd drive up to this location that he read about in Fate magazine, like say Henniker, New Hampshire, the ocean-born Mary. And he'd sit out there, for instance, and he would sketch the outside of this house, a house. It'd take him about 30 minutes. And he'd hand the sketch to Lorraine and say, "Lorraine, go up to the house, knock on the door. Whoever answers the door, no matter who it is, tell them that a nice painting, a nice drawing of your house that your husband did. He's out in the car. He wants you to have it." And he'd say to Lorraine, "Maybe that'll get us in the house so I can talk to the people about their haunting." Mm-hmm. And 9 out of 10 times, Lorraine would wave up to Ed. "Come on up. They want to meet you, Ed." And "Thank you." And he'd walk in. He'd sit and say, "Oh, I heard you have a problem in this house." He was trying to learn back then, in his early 20s, what was happening to these other people. Was it the same phenomena or not? And that's how he got into doing it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that wouldn't work today because nobody would answer their door.
No, they'd be like, "Get away, I'm calling the cops."
Exactly. So with you working with them for so long, what would be your most memorable case that you've done with them?
Well, the first one was, I should say the most memorable one was like one of the first encounters I ever had. And that was in England, in a place called Whitby Abbey, in a town called Whitby, England. And Ed said, we're gonna go on vacation. You want to come? We're gonna go to England." I go, "Yeah." Ed, it was just Ed, Lorraine, Judy, and me. We didn't bring anybody with us. 1981. He goes, "Yeah, we're gonna go investigate and find these haunted locations. It's really neat in England, very mystical in Scotland." Mm-hmm. All right. So one of the places he wanted to go was Whitby. He goes, man, you wait till you see this old cathedral, this old abbey. The ruins are still there. He goes, it's haunted there. I said, all right. So we're in a town called Robin Hood's Bay, and there's a B&B there. Oh, about 2 a.m, I hear a knock at our door, me and Judy's door. It's Ed. Get up. I go, Ed, stop it. I'm going to sleep. Get up. We're going to Whitby. I go, what are you talking about? Sounds like a wise guy. We're not going anywhere. He goes, yeah, you are. Get dressed. We're going to go investigate Whitby. So we got up, begrudgingly, and we went to Whitby, which wasn't too far away, Whitby Abbey. And Ed took a cassette recorder with him. He said, hey, bring your 35mm camera and your tripod. He goes, we're going to do a little investigation. And we did. We went there. It's pitch black. It was in May. But May in England is different than May in the East Coast. It was cold. It was off the North Sea. Pitch black except a little bit of light from the cathedral lights, from they shine onto the ruins. And nobody else was there, of course. It's like, by that time, it was like 2:45. And Ed says, all right, I'm going to set up my cassette recorder and get some recordings. You set up your camera. I said, okay. So I'm setting up my 35mm camera. Ed had already told me the place was haunted and, be careful and all this other stuff. And half the time I thought he was joking. Like, he's just saying that to get me scared, So I put the camera, it's a Canon camera, 35mm film camera, onto the tripod. As I'm doing so, I could feel a presence behind me, something. I could just tell something. I turn around, and there's this black, whirling, cyclone of a mass, maybe about 6 feet high. It felt like it was pulsating, swirling right there, blacker than the night, so I could see it. And when I looked at it, instantly drained of energy. I felt like this is it. Like I'm gonna faint. Like almost like the blood pressure just went right down. I went down on my knees. I'm scared because I don't know what I'm dealing with here. Remember, I just got off the police department, and so I was thought I was a tough guy, which I wasn't. And then I'm like drained of energy. I'm on my hands and knees, and I remember I was able to yell out a couple times, like a little baby, almost like help, help. And all I could feel was something running towards me. And later I found out it was Ed. Ed was running. He could also see this black thing. And he's running towards me and he's yelling something, which I found out later what he was saying because I was just in a fog. And he was throwing holy water towards it. He got within like 6-7 feet of it and it was gone. Totally gone. I felt a little bit better immediately. And he grabs my arm and helps me get onto my feet. And I said, what the hell was that? He goes, what do you think it was? He goes, it was something demonic. He goes, but don't worry, you'll be all right. So later on, I find out what he was yelling was, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave and go back to where you came from. And he was throwing holy water. He always carried holy water in a plastic bottle in one of his pockets he had like a beige safari jacket that he always wore. Mm-hmm. A lot of pockets in it. He always liked a lot of pockets so he could keep his flashlight, holy water. And he goes, that's what I was yelling. I was yelling, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave and go back to where you came from. I said, Ed, why did it work? I said, why did that work? He said, well, it was demonic. If it wasn't demonic, maybe it wouldn't have worked. He goes, but remember too, Tone, that what I was yelling was not from me. I was yelling in the name of Jesus, not in my name. I was invoking Christ's name to get rid of this thing. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave. Because that's what you do if you ever confront it with anything demonic. That's the first time I learned about demonic stuff, what to do if you encounter it. And he says, man, he goes, your first trip out, he goes, and you ran into something like that. So I said, yeah. I said, why me? He was like, it doesn't want you to work with me. That's what he said. He doesn't want you around. That's how he's put it to me. So that was my first and probably one of the worst things that ever happened.
Yeah, and This is a question that just came through, and it's not something that I would be able to answer because of my background. But Leigh wants to know, she said she heard this yesterday, but would holy water work in a humidifier?
Yeah, it would work in any environment because remember, it's what it's infused with. In other words, holy water is just water, right? But it's infused with piousness. It's infused through an intercession from God through a priest when he blesses it. So when the priest blesses the holy water, or he blesses a metal, or he blesses an artifact or a crucifix, he's infusing that with the authority from Christ, from God, to give it that holiness. So there's a difference between plain water and holy water, just like there's a difference between plain water and poison. So you take plain water, poison. It's the same thing, but one of them's got something added to it. So holy water is infused with piousness, holiness, through authority from an ordained member of the clergy, through intercession by God. So yes, it would work through a humidifier. It'd be the same as just throwing it in a room, like sprinkling it in a room. It'd be the same thing. It would work.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about 28 Days.
Yeah, 20 Days.
I haven't finished it yet, just because my life's so crazy. But I started watching the first couple episodes and found it really interesting and a different twist to your typical paranormal shows. I kind of want to know what gave you the idea for that.
Well, the idea was when you see people go into a haunted location, how long do they normally stay? Most paranormal groups will go in for an hour or 2, 3, 4. If they're lucky, they'll stay overnight and they leave. So let's just say this. Ghosts, devils, demons, a lot of times, they don't want you around. So when you go into a person's house, we'll say, or a location, and people say, this place is crazy with phenomena. We're being tormented. We're being plagued by this thing. And you go in the house as a normal investigation. You walk in, you stay for 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, nothing happens. Now you're saying to yourself, probably nothing. These people might be making this story up. What's happening? The ghost, the devil, the demon want you to leave so they don't appear. They figure if we don't show up for him or her or them, they're just going to leave. And that's what what normally happens is, well, we didn't, or Mr. or Sir, we didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. We got nothing on our recordings. There's probably nothing really to worry about. See you later. Take care. And then the phenomena happens again. So you're trying to wear down the spirit. You're trying to wear down, have them expose themselves. In other words, you had a guest in your house. And they stayed for a day. They had on their best behavior. Second day, they're on their best behavior. After a week, they start like, hey, where's breakfast? After 2 weeks, they're like, hey, can you change the sheets for me? I mean, and they're starting to be a pain in the neck, right? They're starting to show their true self. So 28 days in a house, that's more than anybody else has ever done, mostly. Ed and Lorraine have spent 28 and more days in houses with their investigators. But most paranormal teams don't do that. So to kind of draw out what's really there and try to resolve what's really there, sometimes it takes more than a day or 2. It takes trying to wear down the spirit. The spirit's going to get unhappy with you being there. And then they're going to start showing themselves and saying, and wanting you to get out. And wanting you to... So, and also, not only that part of it, it's also the emotional element of the family that might be there and of the investigators that are there. Are the investigators going to remain who they are? Are they going to start to turn on themselves? What's their emotional state going to be like after 2 or 3 weeks, after they've done all their testing with their electronic equipment? And they exhausted all means. Now they're starting to turn on each other, starting to doubt each other. So it's a process of, let's see who could outlast who. Let's dig in and see if we can really find out what's going on here. So that was basically the premise of that. Because Ed and Lorraine always used to say, you're not going to find that. A lot of times they'll hide on you, he'd say. They would go dormant. They'll go dormant when you go there. And then you leave like 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours a day later, thinking nothing's there. And you didn't do anything to help the family because the family really is having a problem and you're not catching it. So that was the premise of the show. And if there is a second season, which there might be, I think that we're going to do a little bit differently. We may just have I don't know yet, one location with a team going in for 28 days, not 3. It's kind of complicated to have 3 at once. One location and maybe a creepier looking facility. So it really vibe,
Right. Yeah, the creepier facility would also affect the investigators.
Yeah.
After a while.
Now they're nervous when they go in. They're not like the Captain Grant's Inn, which was in Preston, Connecticut. That's a cushy place. That's a nice place. I like to have that duty, go there and, have a nice bed to sleep in and the nice surroundings and environment. That is haunted. That place is haunted. It doesn't look haunted,
Right.
when you first go in. But if we say we went to an insane asylum that's, deserted or some other creepy place, I think that would add to the drama and add to the vibe,
Yeah, and investigators will quickly change their mind once they have to camp out on the floor in sleeping bags.
Yeah, and get like canned food that they got to heat over sterno or something. What I mean? So yeah, we may, if we have a second season, which we're not sure if it's going to go or not yet, it'll be a little different, and I think it'll be more intriguing than ever.
Yeah. And Leigh wants to know, where can I watch 28 Days? That's on Netflix, right?
Yes, any time. Just go to Netflix and go to search 28 Days. Go to the search menu and go 28 Days, and you'll find it. And it's a 6-episode series, and I think we did a good job for our first effort because you don't know what you're getting into, because you remember, these are even though the investigators seasoned, you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what's going to happen. Is anything going to happen? Remember, a lot of times, it's not like Hollywood. A lot of times, nothing happens. Like I told you before, and it might even go 28. We don't know. It might even go that long just to get the people to leave. So the next place we go, though, I think is going to be a lot different.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, the people you had on, from what I saw, were great, and definitely learned a few things from it. And that's what I like about shows like that, is where you can teach the public different ways to view things from people who've been in it for a while.
Right. Yeah. And another thing I got to say is, these shows that we watch on TV, that's all they are, is TV entertainment shows. And because if Ed watched any of those shows, let's not talk about 28 Days now, some of all the other shows, Ed would laugh. And Ed would say, these people don't know what they're doing. And I would say, Ed, what do you mean? I know his answer. His answer would be, they're doing half the job. Right. And I would say, what do you mean, Ed? He'd say, well, they're investigating, but they're not resolving anything. In other words, it's like a police officer going into a burglary. People call up, my house got burgled. You go into the house as a cop, you go, oh yeah, the TV's missing over there from the wall. Oh yeah, no checkbook here. Oh yeah, oh, the drawers are all opened up. And then the cop goes, yep, you had a burglary, all right. Take care. Bye. That's exactly what the paranormal investigators basically do. Yeah, you got a ghost. Goodbye. Yeah. You're not trying to get the resolution for the family that's afflicted. In other words, Ed's whole goal and Lorraine's whole goal is to gather evidence, to find out what's there, and then bring it to the proper authorities to try and resolve. The proper authorities are the clergy. Remember, the New England Society for Psychic Research is a faith-based organization. It's not a scientific organization just trying to gather data. Right. It's an organization Ed already knows, and Lorraine already knew from all their years of learning on the job, and Lorraine's psychic ability and Ed's knowledge, what he was dealing with after about an hour in the place. Now he's got to find out how to gather this evidence and then bring it to the clergy for possible resolution if needed. If needed. Sometimes it's only like a blessing of the house would be enough, or a deliverance of the house to get rid of what might be there. Other times it might be something insidious, might be something demonic. Ed has to have documentation. The clergy, you go to a Catholic priest and say, by the way, Father, call the exorcist. We need an exorcist on Main Street over here. They're not going to listen to it. They're going to say, no, sorry. They want complete, total documentation of what is going on. They want recordings. They want eyewitness accounts. They want pictures or videos if possible. They want psychiatric evaluations of the family to see if these people are mentally disturbed. The whole bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like going in and saying, "Oh yeah, you got a demonic entity. We'll have an exorcism tomorrow." It doesn't work that way. The clergy needs a lot of information, or else what would happen? And you got to give the clergy a little credit. Is like they'd be going to 1,000 exorcisms a day because everybody thinks they're possessed, or everybody thinks there's a devil in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to discern what's there, get the proper documentation, and then try to help the family resolve their issue.
Mm-hmm.
Many times we've gone to places where people would not sleep in their own beds. They would gather, or the whole family would gather in one room and stay together. If one person had to go to the bathroom, for the other parts of the family would stand outside the door. That's how scared everybody was. Not like, some kind of flippant light thing happening in the house. They were truly, terrorized. So that's how I used to handle it, through faith, not through scientific means. I mean, he would welcome somebody with a scientific mind to come and try to discern some things. But when something cannot be explained scientifically, and most of these things cannot, the scientists would say, "That's not real."
Right.
And you'd say, "Why?" They'd say, "Because we can't prove it." That's what they would say. So what are they really solving? What are they helping? They're not doing anything. So you want to go do that, fine. But we know it's there. So we're going to take our steps to get rid of it. And it's through the clergy. It's through religious means. And, a lot of people, Heather, they say they believe in God. They say they believe in God. But then they'll turn around and go, "But I don't believe in devils and demons. And I don't believe in ghosts." And our answer normally is, "Well, you're a spirit, right? I mean, God is a supernatural being. He's a spirit. You are a spirit too. God, you're created in God's image. You're a spirit, but he gave you a body. Okay, so what do you mean you don't believe in ghosts? When you die, your body's going to go, but your spirit will never die. Your spirit will linger on. And the same with devils and demons or fallen angels. You read the Bible. Try to figure it out. What do you mean you believe in God, but you don't believe in devils or angels? Come on. I mean, devils are angels, but they're fallen angels. So there's things that people, they don't use their head. They because they can't see it or they haven't experienced it.
Right.
It doesn't, to them, it's not real. We live in a different dimension. We don't live in that dimension where Christ is and people go to after they pass. That's a separate place. It's actually part of life. Dying is part of life. This is our first part. Our eternal part is coming, But people they all want to live right in the here and now only. They don't want to think about later. So it's something that people have to really start and think about,
Right. Yeah. And getting back to the TV shows real quick, I was thinking while you were talking is a lot of teams mimic what these TV shows do. I know there was a team that I was on, but when I lived back in Vegas, and they basically went in, did the investigation, shared with the client, here's what we found. Yes, your house is haunted, and then left.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, are we going to help them?
Yeah, and that's the thing, because a lot of these teams don't realize that that's how you help them. I guess they think that by investigating they're helping them. Okay, well you might help them identify what might be there, maybe if you know what you're doing, but you're not helping them. It's just like like I said about the burglary and just walking out, and that's half the job. One half is investigating, the other half is trying to solve it, right? Or resolve it. So people need to learn that it's not just fun and games. And, we've gone to houses many, many times where we've not encountered much. And we've gone to houses where we have encountered a lot. But our goal always is to make the family comfortable, to resolve what's bothering the family, and trying to find, answers and trying to find resolution for these people. So that's what everybody should do. Everybody who wants to be an investigator should try to strive to do that, and not just. And I remember, and here's another thing too. We don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. People who tell you, "Oh, I know exactly what to do on that case." You don't know exactly anything, because it might work in one situation and not another. And also, anybody who says they're an expert in the paranormal realm, well, they may be an expert at gathering knowledge or an expert on what they read, but it doesn't make them an expert in the paranormal realm. Just like doctors are continually learning about the human body and about diseases. No, they can call themselves an expert, but they don't know everything there is to know. Just like I don't know everything there is to know about the paranormal. I probably know this much about the paranormal compared to what you should know, what you need to know. And you're going to know that. You're going to know these answers when you pass on from this realm. You'll know a lot of things that you don't know now.
Yeah. And it's amazing how you don't know until you're actually in the situation. Because I know there was one situation where I was physically attacked. And me being the mom that I am, I stood up and started yelling at the spirit like it was a 2 or 3 year old child. You know, we don't do that, you know. But then there was another time I was holding an obelisk and it said death, devil, demon, sacrifice. And I was like, who are you going to sacrifice? And it said you. I turned around, realized I was alone. And I'm like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. And that's another thing I'm going to tell the audience is never challenge the demonic. Never challenge the unknown. Ed used to say it to me all the time. Never, ever challenge the demonic. And so I would say, Ed, well, don't you challenge the demonic? And he'd say, I never challenge the demonic. And what Ed would do, though, is he would use two things. He would use religious provocation and religious resistance. So religious provocation would be, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal your identity now. That's what I would say a lot. In the name of Jesus Christ, here's how I would say it. In the name of Jesus Christ and the blood of Christ and all the saints and all the martyrs, I command you to reveal your identity now. What is he doing? Is he challenging? No. He's commanding them in God's name to reveal who they are. So that's religious provocation. Religious resistance would be, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave and go back to where you came from. In the name of, over and over, if it's attacking you, or if you feel this thing coming down, like what happened to Ed in Amityville, when it felt like a hot, wet wool blanket was thrown over his head and pushed him to the ground in the basement. He could hardly move. He kept saying in his mind, he couldn't even yell, in his mind, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave and go back to where you came from. That's religious resistance. But a challenge is much different. A challenge is, oh yeah, you're a devil? If you could do something, do it to me right now. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as devils. That Annabelle doll's not haunted. Okay, if you could do something to me, Annabelle, do it to me now. Go ahead. That's a challenge. That's different. So you should never challenge what you don't know about. It's almost like I hand you a gun and I say, oh, don't worry about it. It's not loaded. Put it to your head and pull the trigger. Go ahead. What, are you going to believe me? That's a challenge. And you're going to take up that challenge? You might get killed. So, no, you don't do that. And that's how Ed and Lorraine has survived all those years, by not challenging the demonic. Because Ed used to say to me, too, if you do challenge it, doesn't mean it's going to come now. Like people would say to the Annabelle doll, if they said, do something to me right now, it doesn't have to come when you want to. Why is it listening to you? You're just a human. It'll do it when it feels like it. You invited it. So it might be a week, a month, a year. Could be a year later, you have a bad car accident. You're not going to attribute it to what you said a year earlier, but it could be. Because now they're coming true. They're going to do something to you now, a year later. So
they wait till you're not expecting it.
Just stay away from challenging. Don't do this. That's what happened to Artie. That's what happened to Artie Johnson, and The Devil Made Me Do It. He said, don't bother the kid. Take me on. I'm a man. And you see what happens. So.
Yeah. And what would be really interesting is if Ed and Lorraine were still alive and they had their own TV show. I would love to see how different it would be from what's out there today.
Yeah, because Ed used to tell it like it is. You know what I mean? He was a no nonsense person. If he didn't believe what you were saying, or thought you were talking nonsense, he'd tell you right to your face that you're full of it. Like one time he was, I guess he did a lecture somewhere with Lorraine in Massachusetts somewhere, and I think it was the I forget what order of priests it was. I'll have to think about it. And Jesuits, maybe Jesuits. And they're sitting down for lunch with these students and other people are going to be priests, or maybe some were. And they were telling Ed that, well, we really don't believe in the mythical idea of the devil. And Ed looked at him and said, hold on a second. You're telling me that you don't believe in the devil? And they says, right, we don't. You know what Ed did? He goes, well, I can't break bread with you gentlemen. I'll see you later. He got up from his table and left. I'm not going to talk to you guys anymore. If you don't believe in the personification of evil, I'm not even going to talk to you. Some priests don't even believe in the devil, that the devil is a real entity. If you believe God is a real entity, which if you have any religious or spiritual beliefs at all in the afterlife and in a creator, yeah, you believe it's a real entity. You have to believe in the opposite, which is a demonic entity, which all it wants to do is destroy human life and make chaos in your life. And the reason why it wants to do that is because they can't go to heaven and you can, and they're jealous of you. And your ability to go to heaven by being a good person and by believing in God and following God's way. That's how you get to heaven, by believing in God, following God's message, following God's rules. But the devil doesn't want you to, so they'll do anything they can to make you not follow those rules, and not follow God, and not go to heaven.
Yep. And we're actually coming up on a commercial break, but real quick, just one quick question. I hear all the time people talk about Annabelle and how she's harmless. You hear people joke about it all the time, and I just sit there. I'm like, I can't judge either way because I've never met her in person, but you deal with her quite often. She's not harmless. She's not harmless by a long shot. I mean, to say something. So, see, that's the thing. People call her harmless who never met her. People call her harmless who don't know anything about her. I think Hitler was harmless. Yeah, right. You can say that. Doesn't make it true. Right. Saying something doesn't make it true. Saying she's dangerous doesn't make it true. But I know it's true. So I don't have to prove it to anybody that with the things that she's done. They can read all about Annabelle, the things that's happened with Annabelle, and the tragic things that have happened by challenging Annabelle, by challenging that doll. So you can say it's harmless all you want, she's not harmless. Yeah. So people say that, they're uneducated, they're what they call low information people, where you don't really know what you're talking about, but you just talk to hear yourself talk. So as far as I'm concerned, people say she's harmless. You can say that all you want, fine, I don't care, I'm not going to argue with you, but I know she's not harmless. Yeah, because of Annabelle, I have actually a Raggedy Ann and Andy doll that were my grandparents, and my son walks by them all the time, and he's like, because of Annabelle, my dolls give him the creeps. Yeah. So, just it's one of those things where you have to really respect. I shouldn't say respect. You have a healthy respect for what's, just like you have a healthy respect for a firearm, because it can kill. You should have, but it's if you don't mess with it, it's not going to hurt you. Same with you don't mess around with the occult, with the paranormal, dabble in occult practices, you'll probably never have a problem. Okay. And real quick, do you mind sticking around for a little bit after the commercial break? Because I do want to touch on your convention that's coming up later this year. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. So thank you, everyone. I see you guys in the comments. Kenneth, Jimmy, Leigh, I see you still here. I think I saw Nick in the comments earlier. Thank you guys all for joining us. We will be back after this commercial break.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking around for Exploring the Paranormal. My guest today is Tony Spera, the co-director of NESPR. Super glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. Really enjoying the stories you've been sharing.
Oh, you're
so
welcome.
far.
My
And
pleasure.
before I let you go, I do want to touch a little bit on your convention. That's October, is it 17th or 18th?
No, our convention is going to be October 28th at the
Right.
Mohegan Sun. October 27th is our VIP party. That's a Friday
Mhm.
night where people can come and mingle with the celebrities and have fun there at the evening VIP party. But the 28th is the actual convention at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. And if anybody's interested in getting tickets and more information, they can go to either tonyspera.com or they can go to nespr.ticketbud.com, nespr.ticketbud.com, or tonyspera.com. And it's going to be fun because last year we had over 6,000 people attend. This year it might be even bigger. We're not sure, but we have a lot of great celebrities. We're going to have the museum artifacts there, including Annabelle. And yes, we do take great precautions when we transport that doll. So don't worry. You're not going to be able to touch her. She'll be up on a wall, up past your reach. But we'll have other artifacts there too. We'll have probably 100 to 150 vendors. And we have some great celebrities. One is Jason Hawes, we already signed Jason. Ronnie LeBlanc, we signed him. We're going to have Dakota and Chelsea. And we're going to have some other big names that we're working on right now, though. That we just keep adding people. We have a lot of people going. We have a magic show we're going to have at the VIP party, which David Merlin, he's a paranormalist. He's a paranormal magician. And you're going to love that. So a lot of things going on there at that, Eric. You're welcome to come, Heather.
Yep, I'm working on it.
I hope you make it. Now, do you have books that you want to sell, or?
Yeah, I have 2 books that are out right now and one that should be out before the Paracon. And they're all about haunted locations, either in Nevada or here in Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
One of them, I thought you had one out already from Nevada, didn't you?
It is, I have Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns, and then Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley are out.
Well, if you come and you bring your books, you got to bring a lot of books because 6,000, maybe this year, maybe we're hoping to have 7,000 or 8,000 people in one day. So if we have that many people, you're going to be busy. So if you come, but the thing is, there's so many different kind of vendors there. We're going to have everybody, and we're going to have I think we're even going to have a place that has actual movie props from horror movies.
Okay.
I think they're going to come. I can't remember the name of the company, but they're going to bring actual movie props and figures from actual that were used on screen at movies. So it's really pretty cool.
Yeah,
and a lot of psychics and paranormal groups will be there. I'll be there. Judy will be there. She'll be selling her Lorraine Warren bracelets, which are bracelets made from Lorraine's costume jewelry. She would take 1 or 2 beads of Lorraine's and add it with other beads. And then she puts a little tag on it that says NESPR Lorraine Warren. And all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds, go to animal charities in honor of Lorraine and Ed because they're such animal lovers. And so that'll be great to have Judy there. So I think it'd be a great time. And I think you guys all should kind of come.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I'm working out the details now in hopes that I can make it before I give you guys the final answer if I'm coming up or not.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome to come,
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Truly appreciate that. And definitely I've heard great things about the convention in previous years. And each year everyone keeps, because this is the 3rd year.
This is the 3rd year. And this year we're calling it a Phantasmacom. Dan Spera came up with that name. In other words, we're going to mix horror and paranormal this time. Last 2 were just paranormal. And now we're going to bring in the horror genre too, which will add. So it should be a lot of fun. Oh, we have Nick Pope, Ancient Aliens. He's coming too. Just so many people are coming that it's going to be mind-boggling,
Yeah. And what gave you guys the inspiration to actually start the convention?
Very simple. The Warren's Occult Museum was shut down due to zoning issues. It's been there since 1952 on Ed and Lorraine's property. But after we started giving more tours after the movies, neighbors were complaining about people knocking on their door looking for the museum. They called the town zoning. Town zoning says, hey, you're not zoned properly for that because you're in a residential area. You're using it for commercial use. You got to shut it down. And I appealed it. I lost. You never win against the town anyway. I lost, so I couldn't show the artifacts anymore. So I said, what better way to show artifacts than to have a convention somewhere, which I don't have to worry about commercial zone, I don't have to worry about this and that. And Dan said, yeah, well, why don't we just have a Paracon? I said, you think people show up? He started laughing. He goes, of course they'll show up. And we did. The first one was in Waterbury, Connecticut. We had about 1,000 or 2,000 people, I should say. And, this one we had 6,000. Hoping this year we'll have even more. But we have a lot of room now. The Mohegan Sun Casino is a terrific venue. If you haven't been there or seen it, there's 43 restaurants at the casino. A lot of them are top-notch restaurants. I mean, top tier. And also, there's a mall in the casino, and there's also gambling, of course, in the casino. So there's shows that go on there too, and our Paracon will be right there in the middle of it, in the vendor and the exhibition hall.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like fun. And like I had said, people just keep telling me that it gets better and better every year.
Yeah, we try to add things to it to make it more interesting. To make. Well, now we're going to call it where the paranormal and horror coexist, together. Because a lot of people like horror. It's almost like an overlapping mix, So we're going to bring in celebrities. We're working on celebrities, like people like Adrienne Barbeau and things like that from the Five. We're trying to get her. We're trying to get a lot of people, but it's hard to get through to their agents sometimes. But we're still working pretty hard on it.
Yeah, you need to get the Conjuring actors out there.
Yeah, well, I tried to get the Nun, but she was already booked. Bonnie Aarons, which I met her at the premiere. She's actually a very nice person. She's tall. But Patrick and Vera, I guess they're busy. I didn't really reach out to them yet because I know how busy they really are. But it would be cool, wouldn't it, to have? Yeah.
You would probably need an even bigger location.
I know.
If you got them there.
They're fantastic people,
Yep.
I mean, actors that people say, well, they're just actors. They're jerks. No, they're not. Not them. They're down to earth people. Those two are really down to earth people.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it's going to be a good time. And is there anything you want to add before I let you go so you can enjoy your day?
Yeah, I do want to add, or I say to people, to follow God's lead, to live a good life, to go down the correct pathway. And I'll leave you with this. If you do bad things in life, if you're a cruel person, if you are selfish, if you are egotistical, you are envious of people, if you're a thief, if you do bad things, we'll say, the devil smiles, God frowns. But if you follow the correct path and do what God wants you to do, that means be good to others, do good things, be generous, be compassionate, be loving to other people, because everybody's on that same journey as you. When you do good things like that, God smiles and the devil frowns. And that's what you want to be. You want to be so God smiles and the devil frowns. And I think I'll leave you with that.
So perfect. Thank you so much. And I will definitely share how people can find you and how they can get tickets on my Facebook page. And we'll make sure we get the word out. And I know in a couple weeks, I think I have Dan Rivera on also to help promote the convention.
Very good.
Get that out as well.
Dan's a good man. He created all the cases, for Annabelle, the travel case.
Yeah, he told me that.
Yeah, his travel case for the movie doll. Yeah, because we're bringing the movie Annabelle doll too. And
Yeah.
the Shadow doll and the Satanic Idol, all that. All right, so that's great, Heather. Thank you.
So perfect. And definitely, even Leigh commented, love listening to you. She could listen to you all day. Love hearing your stories. So hopefully we can have you on again in the future to talk more about your experience in the field.
Anytime. I'd be more than happy to try to spread the word that God is real and the devil is real, and who you choose is really what matters.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for your time. It was great having you.
Okay, Heather. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. So amazing guest. Like I told you guys, absolutely love Tony. Looking forward to his convention. So keep your fingers crossed that I can make it up there this year and get out there so I can start seeing some of everybody who gets out there to hit the convention as well. So I will be sharing the information on where to find information on how to get tickets, more information on who's there. But I believe if you also follow NESPR on Facebook, they've been sharing information about their upcoming guests and everything that's happening there. Definitely a great guy. Loved hearing the stories. I could listen to Ed and Lorraine's stories all day long. Definitely great hearing from someone who's worked with them for so long. So again, thank you guys for joining us. To close it out, I just kind of wanted to touch back. If you guys have any questions for me, or even if you guys are watching the replay and you have questions for Tony, let me know at Dr. Heather Leigh, or you can find me on Exploring the Paranormal Show as well. And I can make sure I get the questions to him. But as you can see, he's another one that's willing to answer questions and spread the word. And like I talked earlier in the show, I'm always here and happy to answer any questions. Excuse me. Before I leave again, I just want to thank every one of you. This show wouldn't be possible without you guys. Truly do appreciate each and every one of you joining in. Today was a very active morning, so thank you everyone who commented. I guess this new sharing feature, Todd, worked, because I see several people coming from my pages that I tagged and commenting. So that was kind of, I love StreamYard. Just absolutely love the new features that they're doing and everything. And actually, before I go, let me pull up my schedule for next week. I believe next week I have the I don't really want to call them girls, because that just sounds like young, but I have the 3 of the female investigators from Georgia Paranormal Investigations. I know we had to reschedule Stephanie at one point because she had was sick. I'm not sure if she had COVID or just the flu. Oh, no, sorry. Next week is Todd Neese, amazing investigator. He will be joining us. And then April 4th, I have Stephanie and the Georgia Paranormal Investigative Team. I believe, want to say Kelly and a few others are joining her. Joe Frankie will be joining me on 4/11 on April 11th. Then April 18th, I wanted to bring this one up. I knew there was something I needed to bring up. April 18th, I'm hosting a show called Women of the Paranormal. So far, I have 2 guests, Aurora North from Canada, and then Catherine Sorlios from Greece. She just moved to Greece. Sorry, I had to think of where she moved to. They will be joining me on April 18th, and we're going to just discuss our experiences. And if anyone out there is available that has experience in the paranormal field and wants to come aboard, share tips, tricks, what it's like being a woman in the paranormal field, because I don't want to say that it's biased to men, but there is definitely a lot more men in this field than there are women. So I kind of want to give a woman's perspective on the field. So make sure you reach out to me and let me know. I still have room for 2 to 3 more. So if anyone wants to join, I do have one person I need to reach out to because I had some that were pending, but they canceled. So let's just say I have room for 2 more to join in on that one. So make sure you guys definitely reach out to me and let me know that you are interested. Then on April 25th, I had mentioned Dan Rivera will be coming on to promote the event coming up for NESPR. And then on May 2nd, I have Anubis Paranormal coming back on because Anson was unable to join us. So Christopher and Anson will be joining us. And then hopefully I can get the Our Haunted Lives, David Taylor and Christy back on because Christy was unable to join the day that they came on. So hopefully we can get them back on to talk to them about their show and more about their experiences. So truly appreciate it. I want to also share just going back to, like Tony was saying, Ed was always reading. Unfortunately, I've gotten away from it. I need to get back to my normal show routine. I could probably just turn around because I have my bookshelf behind me and pull a book, but just like Ed, I'm always reading too. And this one, I don't even know if it's in print anymore. I found it at a thrift store. Oh, I gotta tell you guys, thrift stores, Goodwill, antique malls, places like that are all perfect. I mean, I get so many books from those locations. So like this one called Unseen World, I found buried in the bottom of a pile of books. And it talks about, scientific techniques, photographs, orbs. And this was before the concept of orbs went digital, because this book is all from 35 millimeter photography and everything. And you just don't know. I mean, I picked this up and I started reading it, and some of it is definitely way outdated and no longer considered relevant. but it just gives you insight into something new. So always keep reading. This entire bookcase behind me filled from top to bottom with paranormal related books. And I'm always, referring to them, and that's not even including the bookcases that are on either side of my fireplace or up in my room. So yeah, I definitely have a book hoard when it comes to paranormal. And I don't know about you guys, but I love reading a book instead of flipping through a phone or a tablet. That's just my personal preference. Yeah, I have books on tablets or on my phone, so that way if I'm at an appointment, I can continue reading while I'm out and about. But yeah, definitely always reading and prefer the book. Oh, you brought home a haunted book. Were you meaning that it was a haunted subject, or the book was actually hauntedly? I would definitely love to hear about that. So, and thank you, Kenneth, for watching. Jimmy, I see you earlier up there commenting as well. And I do love your comment, Jimmy, earlier when you said you're an expert at eating when we were talking about experts. That's hysterical. I guess I'm right there with you. And Kenneth, I knew it was when I picked it up, but it wasn't. Oh, you weren't listening to yourself. That happens. And I don't know about you, Leigh, but I have, there are certain areas of thrift stores that I can't walk through. So or not even a thrift store. We have this huge antique mall here, and everybody has, all their own booths. And there's some booths that I could stand in for hours and explore and look around. But then there's other booths where it's like I couldn't walk past them fast enough. So I don't know if that's something attached to whatever's in there, or I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what our gut's telling us? The book went bye-bye. Yeah, depending on what was attached to it, I definitely would get rid of it, or at least try to contain it. So, but yeah, like I was saying, just always keep learning. Any type of knowledge. I know that a lot of people who take online courses are often criticized, but you got to still be careful what online courses you take. You need to make sure that whoever's putting on the course is reputable. You don't want to just, take a team that's been a team for 2 months and then all of a sudden they put up a paranormal 101 course. You want to find, someone who's been in the field for a while offering knowledge, because you never know what information you're getting. But even if you just take, watch YouTube videos, take the online courses, every little bit of knowledge you get is going to help. And I always suggest to people, when it comes to gaining that extra knowledge, photography is a great one. Take photography classes at your local university, read photography books, videography books, because that helps you look at photos or video and know this isn't paranormal because this would be a natural explanation because this is how the camera works. Every little bit helps you. And of course, for those of you that help clients, psychology classes always help. And there's so many things in the everyday life that can help you. If you're religious, you can go to, theology courses, learn everything you can about that, or whatever faith you believe in, study as much as you can on that. Study other religions. Don't be afraid. Don't hesitate. Don't hide away from anything. You always want to make sure that you are constantly, we're always learning. There's always something new in this field, and we're never going to be able to move forward unless we study the mistakes of the past and change our way. Okay, real quick. My voice told me to close my mouth because it kept trying to get in and I woke up. Oh, it left that day. Yeah, I don't blame you, Leigh. So anyway, again, thank you guys for joining us today. Tony was a great guest. I will definitely have him on in the future. Stay tuned for more announcements from me in addition to the TMCC classes that I'm teaching. And once I get that book release date for my next book. But definitely going to be a busy year. And I so wish I could announce some of the stuff that I have in the works, but I just can't until it's contracts are signed and things are finalized. So once that's all done, I will definitely keep you guys up to date. And I look forward to hopefully seeing and meeting some of you guys around the country. And definitely it's going to be an interesting year for everyone in this field. So thank you again. Thank you, Todd, for producing. Always love knowing that you're in the background, even if you're quiet back there. And you guys all have a great day. I will see you next week.
The truth is here and now. on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.